Okay, this is the October 24th Lodging Tax Committee 2016, and present are Fred Chang, Janine Floyd, Lorraine Olson, Kathy Michael, Chris Stansberry, and Jesse Turner. Okay, I did hear today that Chan Park was not going to be able to make it because he had a family emergency. His grandmother is in the hospital. I did ask him to send in his recommendations, and I did not get any. So it looks like we're not going to have any input from Chan today. I don't know what's going on with Bobby, but since she's involved in a couple of these, we'll start with those two first. And what I recommend, that since it's such a small group, that if you are excused, that you actually just go sit outside. I know that other groups let you sit in here, but since we're so small, I think it would be nicer if you're just, we don't have to look at you. Now, traditionally what we've done here is we've had everyone maybe recap the requests, and then everyone has just made a figure, and then we've averaged the figures. We can do that for a start. We can also I'm also open to other approaches. For example, if somebody says full funding, does everyone agree? And if the majority here agrees, we might do it simpler that way rather than the math.
Could we double check the chamber amount though? I have that he had said it was not the number on his original proposal. He said it was 10 instead of 11.
Which chamber one?
right.
The 24 or the
tourism
11?
Visitor services.
Oh, that pen I can still smell. Okay. let's
Seagulls,
see.
tourism marketing.
We're looking at the original application, so that's what we're looking at. So,
The tourism visitor. When he was sitting here, he
Yeah.
said.
okay, yeah, the
10,000.
11,432,601 was 10,000.
Yeah.
So that's Janine. That's the visitor services. Instead of 11,000, they're just asking for 10,000.
There's Bobby.
Okay. Is there another sheet for Bobby?
Right here.
Okay.
Hi, Bobby.
I don't know if there's another one of these. I can go make a copy of this.
Okay.
If that would be okay, or do you want me
Yeah.
to adjust these while I'm down there?
No, that's okay.
You're good. Just make
Yeah,
another copy.
yeah.
Yep.
Make a copy of that one, maybe.
Definitely.
Thank you.
I'll be
Okay.
right back.
Okay, Bobby Stewart has just joined the meeting. And Bobby, we were just going over the figures. What we're going to do is we're going to ask people to leave if they are involved. And by leave, it's just like go outside.
I understand.
So there's two changes to that sheet that you have in front of you, the big one.
Okay.
POPSA, instead of the 25,000, they actually asked only 17,100. So that's one change right off the top of that sheet. And then the Chamber of Commerce Tourism Services, 10,000 instead of the 11,432.61. And does that change the figure?
It does.
It might go down to 660.
Fred,
157.
are you on this sheet? Or are you on
The big sheet.
this?
No, the little sheet, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
157,409 if it runs with what's on here.
157,409 spot 2
Is that
is
right?
what I've got.
Yeah, okay.
So, I'm sorry, could you repeat those changes again, Fred?
Yes, the second one is instead of 25,000, it's 17,100.
Okay.
And the third chamber one, the one that says 11,000 and change, is actually 10,000, a flat 10,000.
I thought it was 10,000 and change.
10,432.61.
I had just 10,000 written down
Oh, thank you.
from the meeting last Monday. Did anyone else remember what Matt revised his figure last week to? If it was the flat 10,000 or
I wrote it
10,432?
down, so
I wrote down 10,000
I wrote
with
down,
all zeros.
I wrote down 10,000. I just put 10,000.
Okay.
432.61.
Okay,
Is that what
we can go with the higher
you-
figure. It,
You're
so,
talking about the.
so Matt's change is 10,432.6. Just instead of 11, make it a 10.
Yeah.
And Bobby,
At 10,432.
yeah, instead of the 11, just make it as
Yeah.
a 10. So, let's see. I think one other general thing that we can talk about is, we were told last week that the treasurer has estimated 190 over the next 2 years. We're only allocating the next year instead of the next 2 years. So it's suggested here on this worksheet that the amount is 95,000. So a decision is, do we want to go with the whole 95,000? Do we want any reserve or?
Well, we've been doing, what, 10% in reserve?
The sheet says a reserve, which would be 10,000 of allocated,
10% of
or
allocated.
10%. So that would be less than 10,000 or 9,500.
What do we use the reserve for?
Wasn't there some
Just in
carryover?
case there's not enough.
There should be
Have you
carryover
ever used
reserve
it?
from this year.
Yeah, we're not getting that
Not that I'm
information.
aware of.
It's
I
just
know.
Do you know if
95,000.
we've ever used
Yeah.
the reserve?
I
But it needs to
apologize.
be.
No, that's okay. I didn't mean to
Yeah,
be that
that's okay.
Otherwise,
I
he's
believe
just
it
gonna
happened
build up the reserve.
several years ago.
That's not right.
And that's why they've always held it. And then, not too many years ago, there was an overage left over, and then the city treasurer went ahead and advanced part of it. The issue, from my understanding, is that if you allocate these monies to these organizations and somehow that revenue does not come in, you don't want to shortfall them, when they're putting out events and signing and things like that. So the treasurers normally fall into the more conservative number.
I appreciate that, but it sounds like we've rarely used it. And just to sort of maybe approach this a little differently, is that, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I just want to allocate as much as we can out there with everybody understanding that there's not enough money, and then if we had to make adjustments, we would. But it sounds like we've rarely had to do that. And this is public funds, and so it's always subject to change or, but if we don't have a history of that happening, if it happened every year, then yes, but that's a lot of money to set aside.
But can you remember, it seems like there
need more
was
chocolate.
one year that
It was not
They
the
did
year
fall
that we
short.
did the reserve. That was one of the reasons we put it in, because there was a letter that went out to everybody saying there's not gonna be enough, so we're adjusting your
that's been,
allotment by blah, blah, blah amount. Whatever the amount was, I don't remember now what it was.
Well, rather than get into the weeds, I think a decision is, yes, we want a reserve, we want it to be 10% or 5%, or no, we don't want a reserve. And I'm comfortable with any of these. I certainly hear the argument that it doesn't sound like we need the reserve. Jesse was pointing out that there seems to be money that's carried over each year, so that sort of builds up a surplus. Those, I agree with that in general. I don't have the specific figures, but I would say I would be comfortable having no reserve or 5,000 reserve or so. Let's keep that in mind maybe until the end. Maybe if we're at 96,000, I don't know. Maybe if we're at 90,000, we could say let's just keep it that instead of allocating another 5,000 and just put 5 into reserve. But that's something I just wanted to remind you of. And I guess the only other thing is that it sounds like what we're going to do is we're going to go through each application, just sort of recap what they're asking for the money, and then make a recommendation. I'm first going to see if there's unanimity among everyone, and if not, we can just sort of individually have figures. Okay, so I guess...
There are 3 small amounts that I would suggest we
Do
do right
first?
away.
Okay.
I agree.
All right, let's start with the cruise. We heard that they were using it for a portion of their advertising and marketing. And let me see, would everyone like to just give them full?
Well,
Full, okay.
Full.
All right, that's easy. Full funding to the Saints, so that'll be 1850. Well, that's easy. And then the second one would be the Jingle Bell Run. I believe they're doing similar. They're using the money for, correct me if anyone remembers otherwise, for advertising, marketing in the area.
It is advertising.
They're asking for 2,000.
1850.
No,
2000, sorry,
Yeah.
the one is on,
Yeah.
I was on the wrong one.
And so, how do you guys feel about giving them full funding?
I feel good about that.
I feel good.
Not sure. Are there alternate figures you feel more
I have
comfortable with?
1,500, but I have no problem if the group wants to give them full funding. I'll just make my 500 adjustment someplace else.
Hmm.
I think it's very worthwhile, and she does a great job.
And we actually get people that come from out of the area
That is
to
true.
be at it.
So, Chris, what do you think?
I can go with full funding for her. She hasn't, this is the second year she's asked.
Do you, okay?
Yeah,
So
I'm
full
good
funding,
with that.
a reluctant full funding, 2,000. Okay. And then let's see, what was the third one?
The seagull calling.
Oh,
That's,
okay.
but don't you think that's really part of chamber? I mean, the whole of
Oh,
chamber?
yeah, yeah,
rather
Bobby,
than
you'd have to leave for that one.
individually?
Well, meaning,
Meaning the whole ask for chamber?
right, but it's broken into, each one's broken into a separate category. I mean, the funds are.
No, and Chris,
allocated
I would think that each of their requests should be treated separately.
Okay.
It will also make it a lot easier so they know what we're supporting versus what we're not.
Okay.
I think the other two might blur a little, so we'll come to that later. Okay, so let's see what else. Why don't we ask?
So are we going forward with the
Let's-
chamber on the 2,000?
No, because
Oh.
Bobby's involved in that
Oh,
one.
okay.
So I recommend we just start from the top. So Chris, if you don't mind stepping out, then we'll tell you
Okay.
what happens when you get back. Chris is also our recorder, sort of.
So starting at the top of what?
The top of the sheet, so it's the Visit Kitsap?
Is it, is that?
Yes. Okay, so based on the four of you here, they have asked for 12,000, which they generally do to an umbrella of different kinds of marketing and advertising. I can tell you that from discussions among the council is very supportive of this Kitsap in general. The majority of the council is. And they feel that they should be supported as part of I'd say countywide association. They believe in participating regionally. They did not, however, know what they were going to be asking in terms of a figure. So they didn't specify a figure, but in general, they would recommend full funding. So what do you guys think? Does anybody want to throw out a figure?
$5,000 is what I put.
5,000, okay.
Visit Kitsap last year.
They got about
We
6 or
didn't
so.
fund them last year, did we?
We did.
Yes, we did.
6,225.
But they didn't accept it, did they?
Yes, they did.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Thought they did not.
No, they took it. The problem is that we never, ideally we'd have a gradation, like if they get this amount, they do this for us. If they get this amount and this. So it's not clear what they're going to cut out. And I feel that they have tried to include Port Orchard in whatever it is they're doing, whether
They
it's
did a good
that
job
amount.
with the bikes. I know
Okay.
that.
With the what?
Bike run. That was
If
excellent.
we're dealing with
Are they
Visit
doing that
Kitsap,
again this year?
don't we
I
need,
didn't pick up on that. Do you know?
I don't know.
isn't Chris
She's on the board.
a Visit Kitsap?
Yes.
Is she?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why she left the room.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, she's on the board.
Do you know, Fred, if that bike event is in again this year or not.
I didn't pay
I don't
attention.
remember that.
It sounded like it was something they were going to try to do annually. I don't know if, what kind
It
of
was a
promises they have.
success, I know that, but I can't imagine they wouldn't do it if it failed, probably. So if we don't vote them in for full, what is the council gonna say? I'm interested in that because it
Well-
sounds like they want us to give them close to
There,
the
there,
full amount.
there are things that the council will tend to color whether or not they want to revise the awards. Even though they didn't mention the amount, I think they would look at that and they would probably hear that they didn't get full funding. One thing that Brandy was telling us last time, that clarifying the rules, I guess for lodging tax, rules is not the right word, the procedures, is that council is able to then suggest what they want. And then it would come back to us for comment, or we could say that we're completely opposed and then the council could still vote on it and then that would be it. Previously, we thought they couldn't make any changes at all.
Yeah, I heard,
So,
she told me that.
Yeah, that is the clarification. I have a feeling that they probably would want to change this, that one item. And one thing to think about is that if they change one item, will they want to change other items? I don't know. Some members of the council are very deferential, where they will just basically look at what the committee's done and be okay with it. Some are more active and may want to take a different look at things. So, I think,
Yeah, so I don't know if, because I have sat on the county's lodging tax disbursement a couple of years ago, not last year, but the year before. And the county does fund Visit Kitsap. I think it's to the amount of about $240,000.
Well,
So
that's
it's
good.
a lot.
That's pretty hefty.
But that comes as a result of that's unincorporated Kitsap County, and so you're looking at Silverdale
yeah.
as being the largest hotel motel lodging area. The equation that I pull into that when we sit on the committee is that the majority of that money comes from the naval base, the military that comes in, that stays in those hotels, whether it be transient or in the process of coming in and out, and or engineers, firms that come in. And so the majority, it appears, of the people that are staying in hotels aren't technically probably tourism, but there's a lot of money because those hotels are very full and very busy. So I want to make sure we understand. I didn't see in the process of going through that there's a great deal of tourism activities that Visit Kitsap is doing in that region as far as it going towards military support. So I have no problem with them, getting funding. I just would like to keep it within a scope of what we somehow feel will generate tourism dollars here in Fort Richard.
She seemed very positive. I went to one of her, when she was with the economic, and she, who knows, she seemed like she was going to spend some money for us.
Well, I think
But-
it also is understood that it is typically marketing as far as advertising
Yeah.
magazines.
Oh, sure.
It's not for actually putting on.
But with my thought is, if the council's gonna change it anyway, why do we argue it? I'm
think
being realistic about it, because I actually heard some little talk about it, and I thought, well, if they're gonna change everything, and
Well, they've done it before.
I know.
They've done
Not
okay.
too drastically.
Well, there was one
I did
year
last
they
year, we did.
sent
They
everything
didn't
back.
know that they could.
and now they do.
I suggest,
It's true.
So, if you want to come back to this one, I would actually recommend that you just consider full funding. You can abstain if you don't want to support it, or you could also just have comments be into the record. One thing that I'm looking at though is that on their third page, they are pretty upfront about showing the amounts that they're getting from the county, the city of Hallsville, and the city of Bremerton.
And what's those totals?
I'm sorry, what?
Those totals are?
Okay, they're get awarded 270 from the county, 24 from Paulsbo, and 18 from Bremerton.
So it's 300,000 over.
Well, you know, one of the things that I wish I would have asked her, because I was curious about it, is she said in her proposal that she was dedicating part of the website to just Port Orchard, and I wish I would have followed up and find out more about what that meant too, because I thought that was kind of intriguing.
She said that at her meeting too. Well,
If if the council is gonna mess with it anyway, I'd
that's the
vote
way I
for,
feel.
I would vote for $8,000 to give them a place to go to. You know, that would give them, then they could increase it to 12 and feel good about themselves.
Well, I feel bad about taking that attitude that then is Potts able to say, we feel bad about it, and, you know, Chamber, we feel bad about what we don't get with what we do, and I see those are I see on the feet on the ground running here, and that's very critical to me. And a little bit of a different proposal. I have no problem with giving them some funding, but I'm feeling like we're being coerced into doing it because the authorities and the powers that we vote into these positions aren't going to listen to the recommending body. And
That's
that's
surely not
strong
what's
words,
gonna happen.
but I don't want to succumb to a sense of,
But if they're gonna change it anyway.
then make them do it and make them justify
It
it. I don't
makes
want to
me-
hand
That
it
makes
to
the
them on a-
Norwegian in me just brings it
I
out.
actually think they're going to help us. I feel after listening to her, I know she's not, she's
Yeah,
hard to,
and
but
unfortunately, I've sat
I
through
know.
way too many
I
meetings,
know,
and we
and I
had
have too,
a
but
disaster of money not coming in and the help not being there.
Well,
I'm hoping she's on a different path. I truly am.
And I just want to add, and I think this is what you all are saying, is that, we want to support what they're doing, and $12,000 isn't a huge amount, but my thing is that we have this huge amount of money that's been asked for, and everybody's going to need to take a cut, and I feel it's unethical to give them full funding, because $12,000 is a lot of money when you only have $95,000, and all these other smaller organizations that are needing funding also.
I'm listening.
I know you are,
So,
you're fine.
I think-
You're multitasking and
I think we
I'm
need
fine
to
with
put
that.
projected numbers on one side, Fred, and ask on the other up there, and then, because we do have a pretty good sum of money that, when I went through the process, didn't necessarily totally get allocated. And,
I'm gonna actually do a reverse amount left, if that helps.
that would be great.
So,
That does happen.
So can we
this is hard math.
throw out numbers
Yeah.
that we think because in the process of doing this, I've already kind of allocated numbers.
So
as soon as
I've heard two figures so far. Someone's mentioned 5 and someone's mentioned 8. Does someone want to mention another figure?
I'd go 65.
65? And Bobby, if you mentioned a figure, what would that be?
My figure was
12.
12,000.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No,
I feel
No
like,
apologies.
I feel like she's gonna do something for us. I could be wrong about that though.
Okay,
just as
Janine,
wrong as
let's
I'm
add up.
sitting here.
12 plus 6500. And can I use 8,000 for you?
And you said 5.
8,000.
What did you say for kids?
5.
5. And she said 5.
So that's 31.5 divided by 4. 78, 75. Can I round that up to 8?
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright. That's
Okay.
true. And it will come out.
8. Okay. So that's Okay. Okay. All right. And yes, we'll probably come back to all these. All right. The next one to talk about is the. Oh, I lost my sheet. Sorry. POBSA. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Bobby, you need to leave the room
Yeah,
for the
but
next
what about
3.
Chris? Can she come back?
No,
or
she needs to stay
It's on the
out.
board.
She's a,
Yeah, she needs to stay out for that and the city museum, so we'll try to do the next 2 while you both are out there.
okay.
Okay. The next 2 we're doing are the POBSA and then the Sydney Museum. Okay. I should have alphabetized
Bobby, I do have a
these.
question for you, before you, that is in regards to, do you have an idea of the time frame when you'll know if this, the antique 2017 is gonna happen?
Well,
I mean, do you feel like
say-
you're 40% certain or 50 that it is happening in 2017 or?
70%.
Okay.
Yeah, 70. The only thing that would be if Patrick Garcia doesn't like the idea. Before, I can't either.
And
Please,
then, and so that would occur in
Most of them are chocolate, 2 are
Right.
peanut butter,
Yeah,
and 2
and
are
it'll be
chocolate chocolate,
in-
something else.
Oh,
I should sort
Isn't
them.
that one just?
Yeah, and then I guess that.
Double
That's the something else
If
one.
for some reason.
Peanut butter cookie.
Oh, good, they're marked on the
it
back.
happened, Would
Okay.
it be accurate for us to
are
assume?
good
that
size
we need
cookies.
some money, and that might remain in the reserve because following year?
Yeah, dinner and a cookie.
So I don't know if you guys heard this, I asked Bobby about this event in 2017 in
Chocolate
Antiques.
chip, peanut butter.
And simply because there's more money being asked for, that I think that event is a great idea. And that if for some reason it didn't happen, they obviously
In
wouldn't
the
use the money, so it
17.
would end up in
The next year,
reserve
okay.
falling over to the next year.
How far away do I go?
Yeah, yeah. You can stand right out the door and listen. We just can't look at you. Okay, Port Orchard Bay Street, they have asked for 17,100. This application is correct. And they've asked for a bunch of things. It looks like they're partly asking for different activities, operations, and marketing. So do any of you have issues or want to comment on what they're asking? Or you can just throw out a figure. Oh, there's only 3 of you. That'll make the math easier.
Okay, and again, I just did reductions, trying to do a general reduction, so
Mhm.
I suggested 15,000.
Okay,
I would say 15 also.
15.
Yeah,
Okay.
with the potential when we get the totals down, because of the possibility of this antique event, which I think would be huge, I would consider going a little higher for the amount they asked.
Mm.
We're dealing with POBSA, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I go with 15.
Okay, that's easy. That's 15. Okay. Write that down. Okay, and the next is the Sydney Museum, and I forget what they've asked.
7,080.
Spot is
Did we
right.
decide what this at Kids Up?
8.
8.
Yes. And I wrote it up there. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. I know we're doing all sorts of. Okay, so the Sydney Museum has asked for $7,080. They've asked for marketing, website, and electronic. Their sign on Highway 16, and also a phone app. What figures would you guys like to suggest?
Last year they asked for 5,000, we gave them 4,400. But they still have to do some work with the highway sign. So I suggest 5,000.
And I have 4,500, but I'd be fine with 5,000.
Okay.
I'm fine with 5.
Okay. Well, let's go with 5 then. That'll make that easier on the math. Okay. I think we have one more with Chris, or not? I'm sorry. No, the next one is Fathoms. I guess they can come back. So if you don't mind switching places, okay. Okay, you're welcome back. You can bring your cookie back and eat it in here. You can get another one too. Did you want to take a cookie or anything?
What is them?
It's so big. I can leave the room many times with the same cookie.
Is there peanut butter left?
Good.
I don't think so. I think these are all chocolate.
I think I'll be fine.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll take
No,
one.
I didn't.
Okay.
Okay,
Very
what did you do
good.
for
Did you bring those?
Thompson?
It's on the board.
Mike, you
You brought them?
I think Fred did.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Fred, for
Yeah,
bringing
oh,
the
sure.
city.
I will
You have
save
that already.
mine for the
Oh,
next
yes.
venture
So
out.
now we're on Fathoms.
Fathoms of Fun. Okay. So the museum. Okay, Fathoms has asked for 24,000, and let's see, where is that? I can't find it.
What did they ask for last year? I got my, oh, here.
Last year they asked in two different amounts. So it looks
They
like
asked for three.
three
last
different
year.
amounts.
Oh, yeah.
But they withdrew one, so the total of what they asked for looks like 25,750, and it looks like they got 18,500. This year they're asking for 24, and they've rolled it all into one application. It includes advertising, They also do several events. What's interesting is they rolled in the
Concerts.
concerts into this.
Yeah.
In some years, the concerts have been separate.
They have.
Um,
And the fireworks is in here too, correct?
Yes, that's all of them.
yeah, although, yeah, sort of it's an umbrella of their different events, and I think the next to the last page has their sort of budget on it.
Sharon said they asked for a little bit more too, because it's their 50th anniversary, and they wanted
Oh,
to
yeah.
do more.
No, yeah, so they have, and on their next to the last page, it's broken down by sort of how the amounts that they're asking for funding for lodging tax in like, I think 5 or 6 different categories, 5. Including the fireworks, concerts, the float, and 2 kinds of advertising, web and I guess print. So that's the breakdown of their 24,000 requests. Do you have any comments, or do you just want to throw out a figure? You can do either. I know sometimes certain items get different amounts of support.
This is Fathoms, right?
Yeah, this is the Fathoms.
I think their biggest thing is they do the parade and
Yeah.
then they do the 4th of July fireworks,
Good.
which definitely is probably one of the nicest events we have. And brings people into town as far as, they come from 50 miles away or not. I'm gonna jump out at 18.
Okay.
I put 1950.
19,500? Okay.
I was at 10,500.
10,500? Okay.
I had it at 15.
15, okay. All right, let's add that up and then we'll subtract by.
Kathy, what was yours?
18.
Okay, divided by 4 is 15,750. Okay, how about we round that up to 16, just for now? Okay.
Sure.
All right, so. Oh, I have the other pen.
There you go.
Oh, I'm just on a mission here.
Oh, I can't wait to hear what it is.
She always.
Thinking about
Look at
something.
this. She is the best.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Are we ready? Okay.
Did we do the seagull calling contest earlier, or did we?
We
We
waited
were gonna do it for all, with all of chamber.
all of.
We're gonna do all of chamber, okay.
It's funny, they did it. Oh,
Broken out.
yeah. It's hard when they don't, though, how much goes for
Mhm.
the music and like for travel.
Okay, Fathoms was awarded 16,000.
Okay.
Okay, so the next one is, okay, the 3 chamber ones.
Bylaw.
Oh, you're in the chamber. I'm sorry.
It's a good thing you got that big cookie.
I know, I'm taking it with me. Buy again.
Do you want another one or a chocolate?
No.
Okay.
This'll last for the whole thing. Do I have to leave again?
Yep.
Am I gonna ask you a question before you go,
Yes, ma'am.
since we're gonna do the chamber? I know that the Chamber of Commerce had, John Clausen made a talk about the fast food card.
That is
Did the
good.
chamber ever bring in the opposing side?
Not to my knowledge.
Was that at the lunch or what?
I think,
They did it at
we
our
asked
chamber
Matt
luncheon.
that, and I think that he tried, and it was, he talked about Tim Mathis coming, but he
Oh,
declined the
that's right, he
invitation.
did.
Yes, true.
Okay.
He had a really
Thank
good
you.
argument.
Thank you.
Okay. So the 3 chamber?
Well, now that you mention it, I think it did come up again. I don't know.
Okay. So there's 3 chamber ones, and the first one is, I believe it's the Seagull Calling Festival. Okay, here it is. And they're asking for $2,000 for, I'm presuming, it's not on the left page. It actually looks, if I'm reading this correctly, that they're asking for operations money.
Mm-hmm.
Well-
Are they?
No, I take that back. It looks like in section A, they're looking for lodging tax funds for promotion and advertising event through print and extensive online marketing. But they said the funds may also be used for some operational expenses like permit fees. Under their overall budget is 3,500. They recouped 1,336. So they are asking for most of their budget from lodging tax. Okay, how do you guys feel about the Seagull Calling Contest?
I said 15.
15, okay.
15 was in my head too.
500 was in my head,
500?
but I'll go with.
Well,
I
actually,
don't know how this is
5,000
all gonna add up to 95,000.
5,000
Oh, I think
divided
we're
by
actually
4
kinda where we
is
went. It's pretty good.
1250.
This, we have to remember the city's asking for about 65%.
1250.
That's-
Um,
Remember, I calculated the number.
well,
Ray,
we
did you
have
say 15 or did you say
I
5?
said 500, but I'll go with 15. I mean, I
1,500.
just think that.
500 makes it 1250.
Yeah, 1250.
Okay,
Okay.
that's okay with the others.
And since you're rolling up, you might as well do 13.
Well, except
You rolled
This is,
up
we got
Fathoms.
Yeah, but
money,
we have
we've got
250.
Saints is at 1850, so just do 1250, we'll play with it at the end.
Well, you rolled up Fathoms.
250. Oh, now comes the hard math. 1, 2, 5, 6. Is that right? I think that's right.
What's right?
1250 from 47,150.
Are you looking for your
Yes.
total?
Yep.
Your total,
It's 40. We're at 45.9.
well, your total is 70,000 right now, 7191.
Well, no, we're looking at what's left.
Okay.
Okay, or that, yeah. Okay, so that's the Seagull Calling Contest. Next, okay. Now, if you guys have a clear
What are we doing next?
Vision of how these two differentiate. There's the two remaining chamber ones. One is for tourism visitor services and one's for tourism marketing services.
Okay, the tourism visitor is the office expenses.
Okay.
It's the phone, it's the mailings, it's that sort of stuff.
Is it also their website?
It's their website, the chamber part of the website.
Okay,
And then
so
the tourism visitor, the office expenses, and tourism marketing.
Marketing is basically Explore Port Orchard.
So when we look at what other marketing is going on out there between POBSA, Visit Kitsap, Saints, you know, I mean, how much of money are we actually looking at that we're using?
The
to
difference?
market? Well, just when you look at the combination, so if every organization is in somewhere within their budget stating it's going for marketing.
In the Sydney budget, it's going for marketing Sydney.
Okay.
In the POPSA budget, it's going for marketing downtown. In the chamber budget, it's going for marketing all of Port Orchard and South Kitsap.
Okay.
And so that's the difference. So they're doing a broader, they're doing like a banner on Destination Washington, or they're doing the big page in the back of Discover Kitsap. And I can tell you from Sydney or from POPSA, it's more, it's like the Country Register with come shop in downtown Port Orchard, or it's come to the Sydney Museum and do something. So it's the specific versus the generic. Fathoms advertises Fathoms.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a grasp on how much marketing advertising dollars we're spending out in how many different directions, and whether that's accomplishing, you know, or if we're overlaying on each other.
We are trying
If
not
POPSA is
to.
already,
There is some over, but not a lot.
not a lot of overlap.
There's not a lot of overlap
Yeah.
because POPS is advertising its specific events. Sydney's and it's advertising just downtown Port Orchard. Sydney's advertising its specific events and the history.
yeah, I think so I think my real question becomes, and as a lodging facility, is we're, you know, on the small side, unfortunately, Chan's not here. So I'm not sure where I see the heads and beds necessarily
It comes
From
from
the-
like.
from the chamber.
Last year it
I know you
was
checked.
an
I
email.
checked, yeah.
Like there was an email that was done out of Portland that for people that were known to travel. And so it was a banner ad in that email connected to the
After the
Explore Port Orchard website, which lists all the lodging and lists,
Bell, so.
you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I'm going real specific here as to, in that process, I don't see where the Chamber of Commerce, I don't see on the actual side that when people call, how did you, well, we contacted the Chamber of Commerce and they referred us, to
Okay.
these two places, so.
Looking at last year, we awarded 14,000 and 6,200 for the coalition, and the visitor center 6,200. This year they're looking for, that's $20,000. This year they're asking for $36,000. For the same things, and I'm wondering if they're gonna do that much more good with it for marketing or bringing in visitors.
The other thing I was looking at is the visitor one. It's really about making sure they can answer the calls and respond to people asking about here. But they're asking for like less, a little bit, a small portion of their total budget. They're asking for 10,000 and their total budget is $87,000. And so our money is less, they are relying less on the portion that we provide because we're providing a really small portion to their overall budget. But the tourism part, the Explore Port Orchard and what they're promoting there, what they're asking from us is almost their whole budget. And so and back to what you were saying, Jesse, about the total amount that we're giving, would it be better to make reductions in the visitor requests because they already have a pretty solid funding there and lean more towards, not the full funding, but as we're thinking about allocations, thinking more about what do we value from what they're doing here and trying to get closer to their 24,000 or something, I don't know. But I think the chamber is really stepped to the plate and has really been doing a great job here in the last few years.
Do you go to the chamber luncheons?
I do not. Sally does. I do POPSA.
It just, yeah, it is my understanding that the participation is down. You know, when I was on the board, we had easily, there were well over 100, 125 people coming to the luncheons, and that's a $25 cost, and that was where a good portion of funding. So I asked that question, kind of didn't get a full answer on it as to whether part of the lack of revenue is due to a drop in membership and or attendance at the luncheons, which is one of their biggest fundraisers. It does not seem to be as active in the community. I'm leaning towards the Seagull Calling because I think that's kind of our funky little summer event, and it brings, when I look and see that it brings people in downtown, it doesn't have to come to my facility because I'm small. I'm not, I'm not the measurement like a hotel is, but still to see people in town shopping in the stores and doing whatever, that's pretty critical to me, and I'm not sure how much the chamber.
And I think we're the only
brings
one in the
that.
world who does a Seagull Calling contest.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
And it seems to grow every year too, so.
So did you just say that you
There's a
felt that
ghost.
the
It's the ghost.
chamber
Just make sure
is
that's
The ghost elevator.
less effective?
No one's come out, so it's
Yeah, I
weird,
really
yeah.
see them, they're, having been on the board, they're really a business-to-business connection in many, many ways, and the idea of, you kind of round table at the luncheons, you sometimes meet other business owners. I don't know that I correlate well the number of guests they actually put in rooms, heads and beds. A lot of this I don't anyway, but still,
Something
yeah.
to keep in mind is that the Explore Port Orchard piece of it was just taken over by the chamber because of the way that the LTAC funding works. We couldn't, as a standalone organization, function because you have to spend money first and then
Get it.
get it back. And so most of that first year as Explore Port Orchard came out of my pocket. And I get reimbursed at the end of the year.
And this is in regard to the chamber.
This is, so the chamber said, we talked about it and what we determined was the chamber was the best place to re-put the committee of the consortium basically of all the nonprofits so that we could do broader regional marketing. And the chamber stepped up to take on that role so that the money flows through the chamber. So it's not really just chamber marketing. It's still, so for POPSA, for instance, I didn't put in any regional type broad expense for marketing because that would come from but that's.
Okay, I'm sorry, I threw that out. I think I put 12,000 down. That's the number.
In total, or for just
That's
for the marketing piece?
Yeah, for tourism marketing services was what I wrote.
Tourism marketing services, 12,000?
Yeah, where they asked the 24,550.
Okay.
Okay, any other figures?
14,000? Oh, sorry, go ahead,
I
Jesse.
had 14,000.
So there's 14.
And I have 14,500.
14,500?
Mm-hmm.
And Chris, did you have a figure?
I almost want to abstain from that one, Fred.
I was wondering if you were on Explore Port Orchard.
I'm
Are you
on
involved
the,
in?
I'm
going to kick you out of the room.
not on it because it's a chamber committee this year.
But aren't they asking for representatives of the other?
We didn't really meet very much this last
Okay.
year, so it needs to ramp up for next year. But I think I really want
You're
to
going to abstain.
from
Okay.
this one.
Okay. Well, note that Chris abstained.
It just doesn't feel right
Okay.
on the Explore Port Orchard piece.
Okay. So I had 40,500 divided by 3 is 30.
13,500.
I hit the wrong button. That sounds good. I'm sorry. 13,500.
13,500.
Okay.
It's like I should have just stayed at home.
No.
Okay. And then the next piece of it is the tourism
But
visitor services.
Yeah.
And do you guys want to discuss that more, or do you just want to throw out a figure?
Last year, they requested $7,810. They got $6,200.
The visitor services.
the visitor
chamber.
services, the one they want 10,000.
They wanted 10,432.
$5,000.
Okay. Okay.
5.
5, Kevin?
Yeah.
6.
And Chris, do you have a figure?
I did actually have a figure. I had 9.
9,000 divided by 4 is 6,250. Oh my!
6250.
I love this thing. Look at what it gave me.
Oh, gosh.
6,250. Okay, now we're back to another 150. Okay. All right, so those are the 3 chamber
Hey,
ones.
Bobby, can you come back then?
Yes. What button am I pressing that's giving me these weird figures? I got 416667.
That's,
I mean, I knew it was wrong, but okay. My phone needs an update. Okay, we're doing this 4 city applications. Let's see. I guess the first one would be Chimes and Lights. These kind of all run together for me. Okay.
I think the only issue I have with their, it's more about how they put the request in, more than anything else. I mean, I think Chimes and Lights, of all the things the city's asked for, Chimes and Lights is probably one of the things that we should fund, but they asked for it. What they want to use the money for isn't what they really want to use the money for. It was just a funky application.
Because they're going to do wreaths, right? Is that what I'm?
No, they can't use the money for decoration, and therefore they're asking for police and
No.
public
Oh, that's
works.
separate.
No.
No, that's what Randy said.
No, they were replacing
The decorations, but they can't
decorations.
do it with LTAC money, so they're gonna take that money out of the general fund,
Correct.
and they're
To
going
free it
to
up.
take the general fund money and use LTAC instead, is what Randy said.
They're gonna use the general fund money to purchase the decorations, and then they're shifting another expense into LTAC, that's
LTAC.
allowable,
That's
from the
allowable.
general fund into LTAC.
So they're not really using it for any wreaths?
No,
They can't. They cannot buy. They're not allowed to spend the money on the wreaths, or it's
Because that's not an activity, that's a.
no, it's got
Is that
something to
going to LTAC?
do, it's something to do with the the city can't use LTAC money to decorate.
Just like it can't use it for beautification.
But the part I don't understand about that is that Brandy said the flowers are part of a festival, LTAC can pay for them. So if the wreaths are part of a festival, why can't LTAC pay for it?
So are the decorations that we have are out of,
They're horrible.
Well, they're out of the general fund.
Besides that, they are horrible.
They were.
Well, you know,
Not from LTAC.
Yeah.
To be fair, it's like, I don't know why you want plastic garlands hanging all over town. I mean, what's the point of it? Either it's live or it's not. I'm not speaking towards, or that's just my opinion. Or I think if you had lights, lights in place of wreaths would look festive. But and I don't know. I think they wanted to get better wreaths and garlands, the ones that we have.
Are 20 years old.
They're horrible.
has the council ever discussed that, doing
Yes.
live garlands and looked at the cost?
No, the
Versus
council has
the-
not. I don't know if that committee has either.
Is it still Cindy and Jerry?
It's Cindy,
Councilman.
I think.
Oh, sorry, Jerry.
Yeah. I mean, I would even forego Christmas lights and give everyone a candle to walk around. But
And
So-
watch while Port Orchard burns.
Yeah. I've been to the garland.
I mean, to me, it's more about what creates a small town feeling, and I think everyone walking around with a candle would be kind of cool. But no one else
Throw
likes.
it in your yard.
Nobody else likes that idea, so. So it is a sort of convoluted request in that it seems to ask for one thing, but it's up to you, however, to figure how much you want to support the
So if we
event.
don't fund this, does that mean we don't have garlands hanging over the street this year?
They did have a
They're
section
going
on.
to use the old ones, is what I heard. Aren't they? Yes.
They're gonna use the old ones this year and buy new for next.
Right, this is next year.
And the money's coming from the general fund, and then they're moving some of their operating expense, which is allowable in their LTAC, into their LTAC request. It just wasn't a very well put together request, I thought.
So they got staff time in
Oh,
here and
that's
there's
just-
staff time in another.
If funding was reduced, the city would prefer to reduce the amount of operational expense for police and public works overtime. Keep in mind that should the amount be reduced, it may also reduce the amount of funding allocated to the replacement of the decorations. That's really convoluted.
Well, I don't really think our law protection agency is impacted by garlands hanging over the city. So I have a problem with that being stated in the application. Can we maybe do the police one and the foot ferry?
And come back.
What's left?
Okay. Yeah.
Is the
Just a thought.
garland, we're talking about what hangs in the streets? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, for the.
I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
see,
It hangs.
I was thinking about these round wreaths and I was trying to figure out where in the world are they hanging all these?
Well, they're in between the
posts.
The round wreaths are
Yeah.
in between the garland. I'm trying to think. It goes like that and there's a wreath in that. Or just,
I think that's a good idea. Let's put this one aside for now and let's look at the foot ferry one. Okay. The foot ferry one, as I think this is more straightforward, this is a portion of the entire foot ferry budget, and we've done it for the last few years. It's matched by Bremerton, and they've asked the Port of Bremerton for funds. Apparently, the county has asked for stipulations that we don't feel we can meet, so they're not asking the county. Brandy said that the county wanted to know the zip code of all the riders of the people on the foot ferry, and they didn't feel they had the mechanism to collect that information. I would still feel comfortable personally reaching out to the county, whoever the commissioner may be, and say, how about continuing what you've done before, which is last in, first out? Is that how you say it? They wanted it conditional so everyone else's funds were used before theirs were. Theirs were the last to be tapped. And theirs weren't used for the year of 2016, as far as we know. We haven't received the budget.
If the so what I'm hearing you say is that if the county's willing to step to the table and say, we'll participate in it, but only if the funding is needed, that they're still willing to contribute. Do you know if anybody's actually gone and talked to Commissioner Garrido?
I don't know.
Randy said they had not gone to the county this year, that this is based on last year's information.
I wasn't sure it was the most up-to-date information, but I haven't spoken to them either. I do know that when I spoke to the commissioner last year, that's what her concern was, that the county funding be used last and that be written in the contract. Because the year before when the county did it, they didn't have that stipulation in place. So,
So
but
am I misinterpreting that the county would step? What I'm hearing is the county would step to the table and include funding if needed,
They
which
didn't,
makes
they
sense
were
to me.
not asked.
Oh, they were not.
Yeah.
So that's
I-
we're not being, that's,
They were not
Have not-
asked.
have not, have
This
not.
presentation
yeah,
is based on what happened for 2015.
yeah.
The port gave $2,500, Bremerton and the city of Port Orchard split whatever the amount was, and the county's funds were not needed, but they would. No,
Would have.
the county said they didn't want to participate. This year, they haven't asked the county.
Oh,
you mean for 2017,
For
right?
2017.
Yeah. So I would say that's really a footnote. Currently in this proposal, the county is not counted towards the funds in the way that they're dividing the budget. I think this is this is another item in lodging tax that the council as a whole generally supports. I don't know if they have thought about like full versus whatever, but the council generally is supportive of the foot ferry coming out of lodging tax for this.
And I do support that. I don't know that the question that hangs in my head is, are we able to put a caveat or condition on it that we support this, but we are in that requesting that the city go to the county and ask them if they will chip in? Or a delegate goes and one of us needs to go and talk to Commissioner Garrido about it?
I
Or
think that's a good note that we can ask that the
I
county
just-
be approached. Okay.
yeah, I just think, I don't want to assume we're going to get a no.
Mhm.
When, if we got 3,000 or something, that would make, or 6, it would make a difference. So I don't know how to
Okay.
verbalize that. And in,
We'll add it in the notes that along with whatever funding the committee decides, the committee would like
but
to
Bremerton is one.
recommend that the city contact the county for some kind of funding, foot ferry funding. Okay.
I'd like to suggest a conditional amount. It has 6756 if 4 entities participate. I'd like to suggest a $7,000 conditional amount on additional information coming. I'd like to put something there and then adjust it up or down, depending on what the city fund
When does this
finds
get
out.
presented to the council?
Like next week.
Okay.
I would recommend against that because I think the divided by 3 is already difficult enough, the figure above. You see, the amount from the county, even when they did participate, was lower than what the Port of Bremerton is, if you look at the man on the left. So if we're saying we're dividing the whole thing by 4, and we're asking the county for 67, the county has never agreed to that amount. And the Port of Bremerton has also not agreed to that amount. So I think that option here is actually inaccurate. But I can see that we might want to put a condition on with the figure that.
Like 8,000, which is what it says, proposed contributions. for the city. That doesn't include the $500 marketing.
Okay, do you,
I go full. I'm for the foot ferry, and so
Yeah,
if the council's gonna, I don't know.
Okay, Jesse, what was
I-
yours?
8,000.
And I'd like to see both of them.
I would too,
so, okay.
yeah.
See, and I totally disagree with you
And
guys.
other than,
Why? Give us your reason.
I disagree because based on the usage that we saw this summer, there's not a lot of people actually riding it in the extended hours. The proposal isn't really solid. It doesn't really say what they're going to do for next year. Is it just Saturdays and Sundays? Is it just holidays? They didn't have the final ridership figures. It's just kind of throwing a number out there without anything really to back it up.
Which we're doing a lot of. So I say full fund it and then they're gonna change it anyway. I'm sorry.
I've also been very frustrated by this because I wanted more reliable hours, and that was cut back based on what they saw as the usage. But the usage was based on the lack of marketing, so I see it as a vicious circle.
It is.
Yeah.
Um,
Can we
Absolutely.
designate that a portion of this go towards marketing?
We could ask that there be marketing.
That would be good.
And some stability in hours, because I believe that's part of it, is that people don't know when it's running. It's always changing. They put a schedule out on this particular Saturday, it's gonna run this time, and on this particular Saturday, you almost have to look at the schedule, and people can't be looking, they don't cut it out of the paper like I do and read it all the time,
And I
it's
do.
gotta be something they can count on, and so.
Well, because our businesses depend on
I know.
that.
I
a
know.
little bit
So you would
I-
like more regularity in the schedule?
Yeah,
Okay,
that would be
encourage
great.
regularity in the
Mhm.
schedule.
Yes.
Whatever the schedule is.
Consistency,
Consistency, a consistent schedule is
And-
better
And a
Yeah.
something
than when it keeps
published,
changing.
when we go into that summer season and it changes, we need to have, I mean, I have one that is on my wall in my kitchen for my guests, but, you know, that there needs to be,
Yeah.
that needs to be
Marketing
on the
is a good idea.
ferry,
Kids
so that
that would be a.
so that everybody that
help
gets
us
on
with
it
that,
in,
too.
April and May can see what the hours are gonna be. you
It'd be
know.
nice if it was one of those things along with the bus schedules that
Yeah.
are on the ferries, even if it's just one little thing.
Yeah.
It's made on a really thin.
The
paper,
foot ferry was
really
actually
popular.
very good this year. They did have a sheet of paper saying
right.
extended hours.
Nice.
Yeah. And
but
we're gonna
the-
have a new kiosk, what is it?
Kiosk.
So that will
Yeah.
have areas to post it.
That'll be nice.
Well, they need to look at the actual ridership numbers and see who's riding it when, before I mean, the extended hours that were Friday night didn't work. The extended hours on Saturday night don't work. I mean, there's nothing open downtown.
Right,
But they
So-
didn't have that this year.
but Saturday
They
day.
I think they were
is
till
the issue,
8:30 or
right?
9.
Yeah, see,
No,
they didn't
weekends
have
too. I mean, people want to go to Seattle and come back, and
Yeah.
if they can't remember which Saturday night it's running till 10:30 and
Yeah.
not, then they're just gonna ignore
Mhm.
it and find another way.
That's true.
Okay, so where are we at on this?
So,
Right up in the air.
So we have 3 for full
I
funding,
did
1 for 8.
5, and so Jesse did 8, so that's 8,300.
Am I allowed to know what chamber got?
Yeah, it's up
Chamber-
here.
It's right up
Yeah,
there.
it's right up
on
there.
the-
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Just bite her finger.
The chamber got
So it's the Seagull.
6250 for the tourist service, 13.5 for the marketing, and 1250 for the Seagull Calling.
Thank you. Where are we at, Fred?
Okay, so there's 3
Wayfinding.
left. There's police overtime, there's wayfinding signs, and there's the Festival of Chimes and Lights.
Please.
Oh, we kind of put that aside.
Does it matter if I'm on the wayfinding committee?
The wayfinding committee doesn't exist anymore.
Okay, what am I on?
You're on the sign committee?
Do you still go to the meeting? I know that's there.
No,
There's
that's
no one there.
that's a different meeting. That's a
It
different
is
committee.
signed, so.
Yeah, but it's a different one.
Phew.
I can just see it now.
The 20,000, I think, based on the way that Brandy described it, she said Nick put in 40,000 into the biennial budget,
Are we doing the wayfinding?
wayfinding.
Okay.
And 20 of it they want to have from LTAC, but that's a 2-year budget. We're only doing 1 year here.
So it's.
So I think we should just look at 10
Yeah.
and go
Good
from
idea.
there rather than 20, because the other 10 should go into next year's request.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
So I'm good starting with that number.
Yep.
I am not a sign person. I find the fact that we're a 2-lane road that goes through the city, and, you know, to have maybe a sign that is a directional, that there's parking on that water side, I think most people can see that. And signage, I think, can often be clutter, not maintained, and is actually just detracting from the businesses and, you know, the environment with which it's in. So, and I don't know that I think signs bring, other than, I would agree with what's on the
Our city
freeway,
center sign?
Our city center sign.
That's golden.
Yes, anything that's out there that brings people into the town. But I think once you're here, I just don't see the need for there to be a sign with an arrow that says, you know, parking, Safeway, whatever. It's
Well, I do it
it's
now.
clutter.
I'm
but-
always getting asked where things are.
Yeah, we do that.
It's out on the street,
Yeah,
out on
yeah.
the street.
But
People
just the
roll
town,
their
it's
windows
not,
down.
we're not downtown Seattle. I really struggle with this one. And especially in light of this Pokemon thing, I mean, those people had no problem finding Port Orchard. It's what brought them here.
That's a good point.
And they didn't have any, with their cell phones, who's having a hard time finding where they need to go anymore? So I'm
Well, I think
concerned about the clutter.
these signs
Are pretty nice signs, aren't
are
they?
partly, and it isn't clear if they're targeted towards pedestrians versus drivers. You know, in my mind, I think it's always nice to have pedestrian wayfinding signs. But if you're looking at what's written here, it sounds like a lot of it is actually for drivers. I think they can be useful. Yeah.
If they're put in the right place.
Yeah, and I hear what you're saying about Pokemon, but I would
Yeah.
say, unfortunately, a lot of the tourists are not that. They're not that market. So they're the ones maybe like who aren't with smartphones. You know, just looking for very obvious.
Right. I think I'm the only person in the world that doesn't have a smartphone. So, I mean, I see it, I mean, in the age, well, I have a smartphone, but I don't use it that way. But the age demographic that I work with, these people aren't having any problem finding anything,
My
and they're older
sign
than me, so.
On the freeway is the best advertisement I
And
have.
I agree 100%
Yeah,
with that.
and the signs coming down into the city.
Right.
That-
But
that-
Directional,
to
okay.
have
That,
Yeah.
to have a lot of signage here in the downtown that is already so small, and cars
that-
parked in the way that you can't see
is
them, I
that
mean, where are you
what
gonna put
they're
them?
talking about here?
We don't know.
Yeah, see?
Unfortunately, it is
Because I thought it-
again, a not well-written
Yeah.
application. They threw some money at it, which is what he did for the supplemental budget.
This is great,
Yeah,
but we've got this. So there's nothing in here that tells me, you know, other than Fancy Park and, yeah.
Well, I think you've got a really good point, Kathy, and I don't know what a balance is, but I do think we gotta be really clear where our parking is, because not everybody knows they're on the other side of those buildings. And they can be all the way through town and just give up, because there was no parking on the side, and there was no direction telling them, all they had to do was turn left at Bobby's place, and they would find a whole bunch of parking.
Right, and
Yeah,
I
right
don't,
there.
I agree with you on that completely. I don't mind that there's a couple small signs with an arrow that says parking that people can see coming in and out. I'm just not seeing $20,000 worth of that. And the other part, there's, like Chris has said, the only thing we've got is this.
So we don't know
I'm
what
not
they're
seeing,
doing.
yeah,
We don't really know what
yeah.
the money, I mean, the city's already budgeted $91,000 for signs. This is 40,000 that got thrown into the supplemental because they might need more. They got money for the kiosk last year, which I
Well, no,
understand.
supplemental means it's not being funded.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I understand they are gonna spend before the end of this year, the 18 or whatever we gave them last year on the kiosk in downtown. But it's just not, it's not really clear to me what the ask is. And honestly, I think if the rest of us have to submit a well-thought-out proposal, the city has to be held to the same standards. And unfortunately, I don't think, and it's never fair that Brandy's the one who has to deliver the message, because it's just not.
I do think though typically over the last few years, and Chris has always done a fantastic job of presenting, but that the council does, you know, I think it is critical that when this proposal goes before, that this is a comment that needs to be included, that, you know, we are holding every other entity that submits an application to a higher standard than the city is providing, and
Hate to say that to Brandy. I mean, she's just delivering.
she's just the messenger.
She's a duck, I mean, it's not gonna offend Brandy. She understands.
She kind of rolls with things pretty good. I
She's
think.
ex-
I've watched her in our meetings. Sometimes.
You guys all do a good job, you really do. So,
You guys-
Brandy will hold no offense
She won't take
whatsoever.
it personally.
You won't
She won't
either.
take
No,
it
no,
personally.
You're not gonna go back and go, yeah.
Oh, you won't.
So you guys do a really good job of holding that up. The other thing, and I don't know where this fits in, but I've been really curious, and that's why I've been running these extra figures about really being intentional about what percentage of this budget does go to the city, for regardless of what they ask for. And what do we want to say as a committee to our community, our nonprofit community, and folks that are applying for these funds, that we really value what they're doing too. And it's actually been all over the place about what percent this. It was 3 years ago it was 10%, and then 2 years ago it was 22%, and last year it was 16%. So I was just kind of rolling around about just, it doesn't have to be the decider for us, but really being intentional about what percent of these funds do we want to go to the city, because I think it does give a message
well, and it
to
was,
others.
it was like of the 90-some thousand, the city's request is like 56. That's, and for things the city has normally stepped in and taken care of, so, yeah.
So
Good point.
15% would be 14,250 for all 4 proposals, and 20% would be 19,000 for all 4 proposals.
But I think we need to keep these separate.
Well, I know, I
Yeah, yeah,
meant that,
yeah,
but totally,
yeah.
when we're just thinking about that, we only have $15,000 left. Right, Fred?
Mhm.
According to your figures?
If that's correct.
I'm willing to throw it that I was 0 on the wayfinding, so I'm gonna start with a number.
Any
That's
other
where I
figures?
was.
I was actually at 13,500, but after this discussion, I think it would be good to give something to it, because I think in good faith, their concept is good, that they're really trying to be clear to tourists, but maybe
Keep in mind, we're only looking at
5,000.
10.
Hmm?
We were only looking at 10 for this year. We agreed that we would only look at 10, not 20. on your
10
proposal.
rather than,
Oh, okay.
because that's for 2
But I thought you
years.
said 0.
I said 0, but the number that you're looking, starting with is 20,
Oh.
or it's 10, not 20.
Okay, so, I
You
don't
can
know.
still put 13 if you want. You don't
No,
have to agree with
no,
that.
no. Then
She backs up a
7,500.
little bit on that.
Yeah, you,
75 is what you're saying?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
Bobby?
I think so. And I think somehow giving feedback that we didn't have enough information to make a good decision
I
about this,
put
but we're,
5,000, I don't know.
we're stepping up in good faith and giving them something.
What about you, Ms. Turner?
Well, I'm hung up on the police overtime.
Well, let's
Well,
set
that's
that.
science.
No, that's separate.
Yeah, that's separate.
That'll
So
be
this
good.
is-
I can't wait to hear.
What do you think for the science, Jesse?
For the signs,
Just for signage and down, directional signage.
on the basis that they're having a hell of a time spending this year's sign money, I'm not inclined to give them anything.
Majority wins.
No,
No, they don't have
$2,500.
I don't know, I just,
Okay.
yeah, I didn't exactly understand that police deal.
The police one, I think the number's still wrong. Brandy agreed the number was
Yeah, we
wrong, but
remember
she
we
didn't, she
put
didn't.
12,000.
So it really, what we're really looking at is 12,000 instead of the 14.
But the other side of this is that there is a resolution, I don't know if I'm using the right word, that the city will pay for, and correct me if I'm wrong, that this is for like the parade, lights and chimes, whenever. And I think they're bringing in mostly, am I correct, auxiliary police officers? We're not never necessarily tapping into the higher level police enforcement, you know? Okay. This has always been, it's within the city code that the city will and has in the past paid for this as their basic contribution to safety, well-being, whatever, when these events are going on. I was very taken back by the city wanting this to come out of lodging tax money.
Well, in the last 7 years, we've only funded it 2 out of the 7 years. The other 5 years, we've given 0 funding to this particular application.
Because it, just so we're real clear, it doesn't impact that police officers get paid for what they do. This is for the coverage during, you know,
The only additional comment that I would add is that it is an attempt of this for the city to use lodging tax funds in a way that is certainly legal and allowable, but in also, I shouldn't say but, in a way to also fill gaps in the general fund. And it's not an unusual request. It's happened with every year. But
And every year you get 0?
Last 3 years.
Do they ever give
it's been
up?
0.
No?
it's something that they want to at least put forward, and I think it's good for them to make people aware that, you know, things cost money. Like when we close the street, there is a cost. A lot of times, you know, I used to think growing up that it was all volunteer, and it's not. You have salary people who are getting overtime, which makes me think, and this is a bad digression, but it makes me think on one hand that sometimes you need a non-city entity to take over an event and run it because they're going to be using volunteers as opposed to salary employees. With that being said, I'm not proposing anything specific because, you know, it's just something that I understand from the way others do it. For example, maybe the Rotary Club, for example, is putting on the whole Chimes and Lights Festival. You're not using city staff to do it. What do you think? You don't like that idea?
No, no. I was looking over your head. I was
Okay.
reading the.
I saw this horrified expression
No,
on
no.
your
No, I was trying to figure out if we did chimes yet, but we haven't.
No.
No.
When we did the
Sorry.
Hog
Yes.
Fest, we paid for
We
those.
paid a substantial amount of money. We
For
paid
what?
over $1,000 to the city.
For what?
For police overtime.
For what?
For Hog Fest.
Oh,
Hog
okay.
Fest.
Yes.
And they were city, I know them, they weren't
And
auxiliary.
and
they
we
were
didn't
city
even need
people.
them. They imposed it because of the hog part of the
Is that like
thing and the motorcycles never even
Yeah,
showed up.
yeah, okay.
That's the
And the
motorcycle.
Well, that was the first time event that it's always hard to get it off the ground. And they were learning a lot of things to be learned from that event, I think.
Are they gonna
Right,
do
like
it?
never to do it again.
Well, I won't.
Yeah. No, FOPSA will never do it again.
The entities that put in all of these requests are volunteer entities for the most part.
Except
And yeah, lots of volunteer entities. The amount that they ask for is a fraction of the total community volunteer contributions that they have to do it with. Now, this is all contributions and or some businesses that contribute to help them out. I think it's the city's part to do the city's job. I
agree.
don't want to give them any money for that.
Okay, so it sounds pretty unanimous on that. Did you have a separate figure or opinion, Lorraine? Or
No, 0 is perfect.
okay,
Yeah, that's what I had.
That's what
Okay.
I had.
Okay.
just-
I didn't
Chimes and
understand it.
okay. Now the only caveat is that we don't have to use all that on chimes and lights. Your chimes and lights should be considered independent of whatever is available. That figure could be used to redistribute on the others or a reserve.
Well, you've got wayfinding signs too.
No, we did wayfinding.
We did wayfinding.
2,500 to wayfinding.
Like that. Okay.
So we've got 0 in the overtime, right?
We have 0 in the
And so the
overtime.
only thing left is lights and chimes.
Yep.
So I had 8,000 for chimes.
Okay. How about you,
Okay.
Bonnie?
And are there any other figures for chimes?
Okay, well, I'm just the one.
Jesse?
Good. Looks good. 8,000.
I
Kathy? Well, Bobby's dither.
I
Take your
put
time.
6.
6.
Bobby?
And Lorraine, did you have a figure?
I went for full, I'm sorry. I
12,000?
like the chimes and lights.
8.
Yeah, I had.
Yeah.
But I can be,
Yeah, but
I
it
can be
isn't, but it isn't
swayed.
funding. What it is
We
funding
can afford
REITs.
full funding.
It's not funding REITs.
It's not funding REITs, it's funding-
No.
Actually, I'd
funding-
say ignore that figure. You know,
It's-
it shouldn't be that, oh, there's, yeah. Ignore that figure. You may find others above it that are more deserving, that you'd like to
Okay.
bump up.
All right, I'll change my mind and go for 8.
Can we add a total? I don't think we've spent it all.
Okay, so I'm showing
38 divided by
7,600
7,600.
for chimes and lights. And on that, I'm showing that leaves us with $7,750.
Actually, there's 7,000 left, but.
Okay, let
Or
me
is
make
that
sure I got my
6,000?
numbers
Okay,
right.
let's spend it.
Or is that 6,000?
Well,
That's-
we're gonna roll it into next year too, right? Or have it. set
We've
aside.
got, okay, I just want to make sure I've got my numbers down right.
This was done in my head, so this is probably wrong.
2,000 for arthritis, 12 for Visit Kitsap.
Just a second. Okay, 2,000.
No, 8 for Visit Kitsap. 8 for Visit Kitsap,
Okay.
1,850 for the Saints, 1,600
Just
for
a second. We're not going in order here, so
Oh, I'm sorry,
going all over
this
the
is the
place.
order I put
Does
them in.
anybody,
That's
everybody
okay.
want to add them up?
Okay.
Just go slow.
Okay,
Visit Kitsap,
Visit Kitsap, 8.
POPSA,
POPSA, 15.
Sydney,
5.
Fathoms,
Fathom, 16.
16 or 16?
No,
16.
16 is what we said.
16, okay. Saints,
1,850.
arthritis,
2,000.
Chamber, Seagull,
2,000, no, 1,250.
Tourism, Chamber of Commerce.
6,250.
That was for marketing, or that was
Sorry.
for visitor services.
The marketing was 13,500.
And then the visitor services.
6,250.
And then Festival of Chimes and Lights,
7,600.
Summer Foot Fair,
8,300.
Police PWO time,
2,500.
I thought we said 0.
0.
Oh, overtime is 0, I'm sorry. And wayfinding is 2,500. So I come up with a total of 87,250.
That's what I had too.
okay.
And that, from
Sweet.
9,500, that leaves 7,750 is what I get.
So let's put more back into the foot ferry services.
Oh, I was, you read my mind. Really? Did you see that? Zip.
Okay.
Oh, 77.50.
So maybe to 9,500?
Yep.
No.
Okay, let's have them show, is it majority?
Yeah, 99, I'll go 95.
I chose 95.
So at least 3 of you would like to show that.
Okay.
I could disagree
Chris,
with
we
it.
really like
You
you.
may-
You
No, that's
know
okay.
You
that.
may disagree.
There is no doubt about it. Chris is awesome. She is.
It's okay.
This, I will tell you, literally having sat on this thing since you have been here, lady. You have got, she keeps us all in line and she's got it all down. And
But I think we have notes that it's not unanimous on 9,500. And you've taken good notes
Yeah.
on some of the reservations, yeah.
Right.
So those will be
About the-
noted.
Yeah.
More
It's,
regular
it's not a
scheduling.
perfect
Right.
request and
It doesn't, I mean, honestly, it doesn't matter, so I can disagree and not,
Of
Yeah,
course.
of course.
I hope so. Yes.
you know.
Okay. All right, so then there's 65.50 left.
65.50
What's another?
left.
do we have to spend it?
Yes.
We don't,
Yes.
we can
No,
put
we
it
can
in
roll
the
it in
No,
reserves.
no, no, I know, but I meant ethically. I just think it's good to get this money out and not sit around and wait for something, and if that may not ever happen. Or at least reduce the amount that sits
Well,
around.
Or another
My-
way is that a lot
give
of
it-
these were just very strapped, and so it might be a nice way to augment some of them since there's a little bit extra.
So
Um,
would you articulate who do you think is the most draft up there?
I think we all have a different opinion. For example, this one, is close. I don't know that the 750 there. This, okay, I'm gonna make a mark like these are already full, so these don't need any more.
And the foot ferry is full.
And the foot ferry's now full. Oh, my numbers are bad. Okay, this is here. Okay. So there's 3 chamber events. There's Fathoms, the Cindy Museum, POBSA, and Visit Kitsap.
What about bumping up PubSub? Because we really, we gave $10,000 less than what they asked
I'm gonna
for.
sit at the other end of the table from you because that was just gonna come out of my mouth.
Okay, well, what
Because
would
if
you
they're gonna
guys?
do that antique thing, I think that's pretty good.
So the total of their ask was 17,100. Do you want to give them a full?
I thought it was 25,000.
No,
No.
that's wrong on the list. We
Yeah.
asked for
Oh,
yeah,
17.1.
That's what you were talking about when I
Yeah.
came in here. Okay, 17.
So 17.1 would be 2,100 more, is that what we're at?
Yes.
I think that would be
Go for it.
awesome to do that.
Okay.
Even
Jesse,
better.
do you wanna throw some more at?
The 50th anniversary?
65. So we have about 43.50 left, or 42.
44.50.
44.50. Okay.
So there's 4,000 left?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, then,
I vote to put a little more in Fathom.
You
yeah,
vote for what?
Fathom,
Fathoms for the, is
just a
there,
little more since they're having their 50th.
Sounds good to me.
How much more?
okay, so what's the total? I'm sorry, Fred.
Uh,
That's the left.
We have 44.50 left, and
And
the
what-
original Fathoms was 24,000. Do you want to give them 2,000 plus 2?
So bump them up to 18.
Okay. So now there's 24.50 left. Okay. I'll just put a small sign there. Well, let's see what's left. Cindy Museum, Visit Kitsap, Seagull Tourism Marketing or Tourism Visitor.
What about bumping up the museum a little bit?
Okay. The
Yeah.
museum originally asked for 7,080.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to give them 2,000, the
Yep.
full 780?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that would be good.
Do you agree, Kathy?
Yeah, very good.
Okay. 7080. So that's 280.
You have $370 left.
Okay.
And we can't give more to Jingle Bell, because that's all they asked for?
No.
How
They're
about
best.
Seagull?
Yeah, Seagull, I like that.
So
All
that's
$370?
That's all chamber to me. And
Yeah.
So,
Okay, that makes Seagull 1620.
1620, okay. These different figures.
Sweet. Keep forgetting we're being recorded.
Can't have fun, don't show up.
Okay, that one's 1620. And the Foot Fury is. Okay. Chimes and Lights was 7600. I can also take a picture and email it to anybody who wants it.
Last year's notes. New. So good.
I always leave this stuff within a shred.
You're good at it.
Okay. Well, any other items for the good of the order?
I think this was a great meeting, thank you.
I think we need to ask the city for a plan for next year. I think we need.
Plan in what way?
We need more direction from the city.
Or better presentation, more.
You mean for the city
details.
projects?
No, for tourism, for a plan for tourism. Because what we did this year is exactly the same thing we've done every year. And it's exactly the same events, it's exactly being done in exactly the same way, and we aren't really increasing visitors to the city. And we all are doing our best. We are all doing the absolute best we can, but it would be helpful to have, for the nonprofits, for the committee, to have a real tourism plan, whether this committee develops it, whether it comes out of economic development and tourism, but some kind of plan, a strategic plan for marketing, so that we have a better idea of where we should be marketing, what we should be marketing. Should this money really go towards marketing Port Orchard, or should it be going to market the little events that we do? I mean, and I know that nobody likes to hear that, but the truth of the matter is, this stuff isn't bringing in a lot of people. Whether because we're not marketing in the right places, or I don't know. I really don't know. I don't have any answers, but I do know this is exactly what we did last year. It is exactly the same things being done in exactly the same way.
So what are you talking about? Like, you want to have more ladies' night outs, or?
I want a strategic plan from the city that says, here's how marketing, here's what we believe about tourism.
So it's not really the events?
No, it's not the
We're on-
events. It's-
Okay,
no,
we're
it's
on
just-
our road
yeah.
for events, but it's the
Do
marketing.
you guys want to discuss this, or is this a new topic? I
No.
think it's almost a new topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my thing
I
is,
don't disagree, but
yeah, when you say a strategic plan, and you're saying from the city, are you talking about this?
Either from here, or from economic development and tourism, or from somebody who's going to own tourism for the city of Port Orchard.
Yeah, I wouldn't want it to be this.
Okay, but somebody who really is on an ongoing, measurable way going to own how tourism is developed, what we should, who we should be marketing to. Should we be marketing for more people to come in and do events downtown from outside? The pirate thing was huge,
It was.
and they got the tall ships, and the tall
The
ships are
tall
so
ship-
hard to get.
You know what, the tall ships is a big point, because boy, this year, I really saw how that, I mean, there were just people down there because of that.
In their pirate costumes, it
Yes.
was so darling.
Yeah,
I love that.
yeah, And I don't probably struggle as much, only because I don't know the demographics of when you look at certain cities, why they get a larger tourism. You know, part of the reason we don't get a larger tourism magnet here is because we don't have the lodging facilities to
No,
impact
I
that.
agree.
So, you know, I'd love to see a couple more nice hotels, especially if a couple pop up on the waterfront, you know, that would bring people, because
As long as they're only 1 story high.
I've
please.
always believed that the tourism that we get here this is a supplemental to the people that come, because I think they come because of where we live. And I know you experience this too. You have people coming in from Nebraska and Ohio and wherever they're coming from, and they're agog at where we live, what we look at, where we are in relationship to whether it's Hurricane Ridge or the Pacific Ocean or the mountains or whatever. Our demographic of our geographical location is our tourism attraction. And then they get in this little town and they go, this is really cute. I mean, so these things are all the accoutrements that are added to it, but I don't know that we capitalize enough in our marketing that you get this, but this comes with it. And
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
That's what there needs
Yeah,
to be a
how to
plan and somebody needs to,
marketing this
somebody needs
location.
to own it.
Yeah, Pacific Northwest, local, regional, small town, whatever.
That's what I'm saying.
Can I hand these to you?
Taking
Michelle?
my cookie and
Okay,
leaving.
the meeting is now over. It's about 6:50.
All right.